Patty. The title is My Journey to the Middle Path.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Patty. My Dharma name is Ji-Jeong. I came to the Dharma Center about 7 or 8 years ago. During this time, I have taken several classes, been on retreats, read the scriptures in different books written by our ministers, and I meditate. I have worked hard at using what I have heard and read to my life, my thinking, and my behavior. I came to the Dharma Center hoping to learn more about spirituality. I have, and I'm still here. I'm going to tell you a story about how my practice has helped me arrive at a chance to walk on the middle path. 2 years ago, the apartment I was living in was purchased. I knew it would only be a matter of time before my rent became unaffordable. So I applied to several apartment complexes that charged rent based on income. I was invited to see a couple of places, and I was quite sad about my situation. These places did not feel very inviting. I was scared, anxious, worried. I was actually resistant to the idea of moving, so I turned them down. In February, I received a call from Valatia Woods Apartments, and it was about this time that I had decided to read the chapter in our scriptures on the Ilwan song. One day, one of our Sangha members said to me at the end of a conversation, "Well, we are all connected." I had decided I would read the Ilwan song chapter until I could form a connection to its truth in more than just the words. In our scriptures, part 2, doctrine, is about Ilwan song, one circle image as represented by this circle behind me. Section 1 is the truth of Ilwan song. This is what it says. Ilwan, one circle, is the original source of all things in the universe, the mind seal of all the Buddhas and sages, and the original nature of all sentient beings. The realm where there is no discrimination regarding great and small, being and non-being. The realm where there is no change amid arising and ceasing, coming and going. The realm where wholesome and unwholesome karmic retribution has ceased. The realm where language, names, and signs are utterly void. Through the light of the void and calm, numinous awareness, the discrimination regarding great and small, being and non-being, appears. Whereupon the distinction between wholesome and unwholesome karmic retribution comes into being. Language, names, and signs also become obvious, so that the triple worlds in the 10 directions appear like a jewel in the hand, and the creative transformations of true voidness and marvelous existence freely conceal and reveal themselves through all things in the universe, throughout vast eons without beginnings. This is the truth of Ilwan song. In my opinion, the first line of that paragraph really puts it simply. Ilwan is the original source of all things in the universe, the mind seal of the Buddhas and sages, and the original nature of all sentient beings. I hoped I could understand not just the words, but the truth of Ilwan in my being. This would also require faith that this is true. I have faith that the Ilwan song represents the truth, and I have believed this from one of the first times that I read the Ilwan song vow. So back to my story. For a week, every morning, I read the Ilwan song chapter. I went to see the apartment in Valatia, and I felt This is the one. So I accepted the apartment. Some of you know what it's like to have to move when you've lived in one place for a long time. I was at my apartment for 11 years. So I started cleaning, sorting, packing, and then of course there's papers to be signed and emails to answer, change utilities, you know, all that stuff. All while continuing to do my daily routines. During this time, my youngest, and you see how I smiled because I love my child so much, he's such a pain in the butt, who had moved to Virginia, needed my help with something that he needed done, but couldn't from down in Virginia. I had developed a single-pointed mind. Of course, I had some concerns, but those feelings did not pervade my day. My task was to move one foot in front of the other, do one thing at a time, and when one thing was done, it was done, and I did not dwell on it. I was actually at peace through all of this. I really surprised myself. Of course, I did have a moment of disappointment with a cable company for their poor customer service. I became concerned by their inaction, and I did not use their services. But I was not moved by my emotions. This was not my normal response. I used to become a wreck when I had so much to do. And this time was different. Venerable Chwasanem wrote a book we are studying on Thursdays, The Principles for Training the Mind. It is fascinating to me that the mind is so much more than just a brain with a function of running the human body and thinking. It is consciousness, subconsciousness, thought, feeling, and so much more. In one section, he talks about feelings. Venerable Chwasanem writes, feelings refers to the world of emotion that arises from the mind's contact with objects. We form knowledge through our six sense organs, and this knowledge forms thoughts, impressions, likes, dislikes. He says, when we become caught up in these impressions, we call them our emotions. Caught up in made me think of attachment, and that made me think of the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are the foundation of Buddha's teachings and are considered fundamental principles in Buddhism. The Four Noble Truths teach that suffering is an inherent part of life, and the cause of suffering is craving or desire. By letting go of our attachments and our desires, we can cultivate a sense of contentment and peace that is not dependent on external conditions. I let go of my attachment to the apartment, to the life I lived in that apartment, and everything that was attached to my being there in the first place. I enjoyed being there after a while. It was a very nice apartment, and I was resentful of and angry at the new owners. But once I saw my new home, the sadness and the anger just melted away. I let go of my desire to have a house. I let go of my resentment and anger at the landlords. I let go of my craving for a different life and accepted where I was, here and now. Reverend Ji-Jeong said in her talk last month, Practicing with Emotions, the middle was the state of mind before emotions arise and expressing our emotions from that state of mind. This is also referred to as the original mind. She talked about how Master Soto-san cried when his disciples passed away. Walking the middle path does not mean that you are void of emotion. You recognize the emotion and you do not stay attached to it. Reverend Ji-Jeong says, recognize that emotions are transient. They arise and exist temporarily, and they are not inherently trustworthy. Emotions persist not because of their inherent nature, but because we prolong them by playing stories over and over in our mind. We prolong them by playing stories in our mind. While preparing to move to Malaysia, I was at peace doing what needed to be done, when it needed to be done, without dwelling on inconveniences or difficulties. I was patient, accepting, even inviting. I didn't neglect anyone or anything. Even what my son needed from me only disturbed me for a brief moment. He knew I was in the middle of a move. I was speaking with one of my Christian friends while writing this talk, and after explaining my talk to her, she said that it felt like to her that this was divine intervention. She said, when you do the right thing, everything just falls into place. I say, when you make the right choices, you align yourself with the way of heaven and earth. What do you think? Pick your own example. Have you had that happen for you? Something lines up to make everything just happen as it should? Not in the sense of it should because it's what you wanted, but surprisingly, unexpectedly. I don't think this would have been possible if I didn't have my Sangha, the Buddha, and the Dharma. I have also put in the time and energy to learn how to use my practice. Won Buddhism is a practice to be used in our daily lives. Reverend Yu has mentioned more than once, the scriptures are a roadmap. You just have to follow the directions. I have been waiting for that other shoe to drop, for some strong emotional response to hit me, to break through this newfound sense of everything is okay. Enough time has passed now that I think it's not going to happen. In the meantime, I will continue practicing. Thank you.